unlocked through emotional freedoms. You ever been so tired, not because you worked too hard, but because you felt too much, like you're walking around holding your breath, smiling when you're really breaking inside? We carry a silent war inside of us: guilt, shame, insecurity, the plate of. We act like we got it together, but deep down, we're looking for one thing: relief. Not just peace and quiet, not just success. I'm talking about real emotional freedom. A moment where you can finally breathe, be yourself, and not feel like you're being judged for it. I've been there, trying to live up to a standard that didn't belong to me, pretending to be okay because the world claps louder for your smile and it listens to your pain. But hear me, the strongest thing you can do in this life is to stop running from yourself. That's when real emotional freedom begins. Not when people love you, but when you finally love yourself enough to stop hiding. I used to think being respected meant being tough, being loud, being first. But let me tell you something that life taught me: the people who are truly respected are the ones who are in control of themselves. The ones who can feel everything, but don't let everything control them. That's real strength. That's how to be respected. Let me break it down for you. We grow up thinking we gotta earn our worth through performance, grades, money, approval, all that noise. And by the time we're grown, we don't even know who we are without those masks. That's where mental health starts to suffer. We're stuck in cycles, reacting instead of choosing, letting old wounds guide our new paths. But what if I told you there's a way out? What if emotional freedom is not just possible, but yours to claim? Now here's where the journey really begins. See, there was a moment in my life, not on a red carpet, not on a movie set, just me in the mirror. That moment hit me hard. I realized I had built this image, this armor, but underneath, I was still scared to face my truth. That's when I made the decision I was done performing for the world. From that point on, it became about personal growth, not public applause. And listen, I know this might sound deep, maybe even uncomfortable, but stay with me, because by the time this ends, you're going to walk away with something real, something powerful. This ain't just talk. This is transformation. You want freedom, then you need to understand this one, Ruth. You can't be emotionally free while holding yourself hostage to your past. I'm going to show you how to break those chains, not with fantasy, but with real tools. Step by step, because it's time to stop surviving and start living. So how do we even begin to unlock through emotional freedom? The truth is, you got to get real quiet with yourself. Not the fake kind of silence where you drown things out with noise, scrolling, distractions. I'm talking about that uncomfortable stillness where you meet yourself for the first time. That moment when the truth starts whispering and you can finally hear it. You might hear things you don't like, things you've buried for years, pain you denied, voices from your past telling you you're not enough, that you'll never be loved the right way, that you gotta work yourself to the bone just to feel worthy. That's the battlefield, and no one can walk through it for you. But I promise you this, on the other side of that fire is freedom. I had to ask myself some hard questions. Why was I always chasing approval? Why did I feel empty after the applause faded? Why did I smile through pain I never processed? See, emotional freedom is not about escaping your emotions. It's about making peace with them. It's about looking at your fear and saying, I see you, but you don't get to run this show anymore. And let me say something clear: personal development is not a destination, it's a daily practice. It's every morning choosing to show up, not for who people want you to be, but for who you really are underneath all that noise. That's the grind that matters. Forget the external hustle for a second. The internal hustle is where real progress is born. I remember when I finally admitted to myself, man, I'm tired of pretending. That was a scary moment because pretending gave me control. It gave me protection, but it also kept me prisoner. There's this moment in your growth where you realize that your protection has become your prison. And if you want out, you got to break down those walls you once built to survive. And here's something wild. Once you stop trying to fix how the world sees you, you can finally fix how you see yourself. That's what leads to mental health breakthroughs. That's when the anxiety starts to loosen its grip, when the anger doesn't erupt the same way, when the shame starts to dissolve. But you got to go through it, not around it. You got to do the inner work even when it's messy, especially when it's messy. And let's talk about relationships too. You want to know why some people keep repeating the same toxic patterns? Because their inner world hasn't changed. You can switch partners, switch jobs, switch locations, but if your internal patterns stay the same, the pain follows you. You attract what you reflect. If you want better, you got to become better not for them, but for you. See, I used to think I had to be perfect to be loved, that I had to earn respect by being the strongest in the room. But I've learned that people respect real, not perfection. They respect a person who can say, I've been through it, I've failed, I've fallen, but I'm still here, still rising. That's how you earn true respect, not with your resume, but with your resilience. That's how to be respected in a world that only values surface level success. This is the climb, the deep climb, and you can trust it. You can't fake it. But the good news is, you don't have to do it all at once. Just one honest moment at a time, one courageous choice at a time. That's where personal growth happens. And those quiet, daily decisions that no one sees but change everything. I'm telling you now, don't underestimate your power. There is more inside of you than anyone ever told you. But you got to be willing to stop performing, stop hiding, and start healing. The pain might scream, but your truth speaks in whispers. And it's time to start listening. Let me ask you something: what triggers you, not in passing, not what annoys you. I'm talking about what really shakes you at your core. Maybe it's being ignored. Maybe it's not feeling seen. Maybe it's the fear of failure or being abandoned. We all got these buttons, and life will press them over and over again until you learn to stop reacting and start responding. That's where emotional freedom lives, in the space between the trigger and the response. I had to learn that the hard way. For years, I'd snap at the smallest things. I'd carry a chip on my shoulder and call it pride. I thought I was standing up for myself, but really, I was just defending my wounds. When you haven't healed, everything feels like a threat. Every criticism feels like an attack. Every no feels like rejection. And that ain't freedom, that's survival. You can't live your life waiting on people to say the right things, do the right things, treat you perfectly. You will stay a slave to disappointment. You want emotional freedom, then you got to be the one to choose it regardless of how the world moves around you. That means not giving your peace away every time someone offends you. That means learning to sit with the tension and not let it become your identity. Let me make this plain: your emotions are not your enemies. They're messengers. They tell you where the wound is, where the story is stuck, and you have to stop demonizing your feelings. You don't heal by suppressing emotion. You heal by facing it, feeling it, walking through it. That's not weakness, that's mastery. And I know it's tough, especially when you've been hurt by people you trusted, when you've been let down by people who were supposed to show up. But listen closely, their betrayal is not your identity. Your pain is valid, but it is not your home. It's a lesson, not a life sentence. And when you realize that, you take your power back. You don't have to explode to prove your strength. You don't have to shut down to protect your heart. There is a third option: healing. And healing doesn't mean you forget what happened. It means what happened no longer has control over your every move. It means you can remember and still move forward. It means you can love again, trust again, and believe in yourself again. That's emotional freedom. Now let's talk about this: how to be respected in a world that's lost its mind chasing likes and validation. You earn respect not by being loud, but by being consistent. Not by being flashy, but by being grounded. People respect stability. They respect clarity. And when you learn to manage your emotions, you become a safe space in a chaotic world. That's rare. That's powerful. I've met people who never raised their voice, but when they spoke, the whole room leaned in. Not because they were forceful, but because they were centered. You can feel it when someone has done the inner work. It radiates, it shifts energy. You walk different when your soul is not at war with itself. That's what emotional freedom gives you. It gives you back your presence. And let's be real, we all want that. We want to walk in a room and not feel like we have to prove ourselves. We want to speak and feel heard. We want to love without losing ourselves. That's what personal development is really about. Not just leveling up your skills, but leveling up your soul. Becoming the kind of person who doesn't just survive pain, but transforms through it. I need you to know this: whatever you've been through, it didn't break you. You're still here, still breathing. And as long as you're breathing, you got a shot at peace. Don't waste it trying to be who the world says you should be. Use it to become who you were always meant to be. Because that person, the real you underneath the hurt and the hype, that person is powerful beyond belief. Here's what I realized: you can't carry old pain and expect new peace. That emotional weight you're dragging around is costing you more than you think. It's heavy, man. Not just on your back, but on your decisions, on your relationships, on your energy. It'll have you reacting instead of responding, running instead of reflecting. You can't move free when you're still chained to what hurt. So let me ask you, what are you still holding on to that's no longer serving you? Maybe it's a grudge that's grown into an identity. Maybe it's guilt from a mistake you made years ago. Or maybe it's that toxic inner voice saying you're never enough. Whatever it is, you gotta name it, face it, and release it. Because healing ain't about pretending you're fine, it's about getting honest enough to clean the wound before it infects everything. Now, I know people say, just let it go like it's easy. Letting go is a process. It means forgiving not because they deserve it, but because you do. It means releasing what you can't control so you can finally focus on what you can. And sometimes the thing you need to let go of most is who used to be. See, I spent years living as a version of myself that the world celebrated, but deep down, I was drained. Smiling for the camera, but tired in the soul. Performing strength while quietly crumbling inside. And I learned that personal growth doesn't always look like success. Sometimes it looks like rest. Sometimes it looks like saying no without explaining. Sometimes it looks like walking away from applause to go find your peace. We get so used to fighting for our place in the world that we forget we don't need permission to evolve. If you feel it's time to shift, trust that you don't need a breakdown to have a breakthrough. You just need a decision. A real one. A moment where you say, I'm done living small. I'm done running from myself. I'm ready to grow, to heal, to be free. That's where the change starts. Not with the world around you, but the world within you. And don't get it twisted, mental health is not just about surviving trauma. It's about building habits that sustain your peace. It's about boundaries that protect your soul. It's about routines that build resilience. Because the truth is, no matter how strong your mind is, if your environment is draining, your heart won't have room to breathe. You gotta be intentional with your space, your circle, your spirit. Now let me pause and talk about something important. You deserve respect, not just from others, but from yourself. So start treating yourself like someone you value. Speak kindly to yourself. Show up for yourself. Stop negotiating your worth. You train people how to treat you by the way you treat you. And when you start living from that place of self-respect, watch how the world shifts. You'll stop chasing approval and start attracting alignment. You'll stop trying to convince and start connecting. You'll stop hustling for worth and start knowing you're worthy. And that's when emotional freedom becomes your normal, not your fantasy. Not your weekend escape, your daily truth. And here's the thing, some of the people you admire most, they didn't get there by being fearless. They got there by being real. They stopped pretending. They got honest. They faced the parts of themselves that were messy, broken, and unfinished, and they chose to grow anyway. That's the work. That's the path. And you're on that same path right now. Don't run from it. Lean into it. Embrace the stretch, the discomfort, the shift, because you're not breaking, you're becoming. And on the other side of this season, there's a version of you that's more grounded, more powerful, more whole than you've ever known. Let me tell you something that might sting a little at first. Not everyone can come with you. Not everybody who started with you is meant to finish with you. And that's one of the toughest truths about growth. When you really start stepping into your power, into your peace, into your personal development, you'll notice some folks start acting funny. Some will pull back. Some will mock your change. Some will try to remind you of who you used to be. But here's what I learned: your evolution will always challenge other people's comfort zones. And that's okay. You don't grow to please others. You grow to be free. You grow to honor what God put in you. You grow because you were never created to stay stagnant. So when people start falling away, bless them. Let them go. Don't shrink yourself to fit inside their outdated version of you. There was a time in my life where I thought loyalty meant staying the same, staying connected, staying available. But I realized that real loyalty is first and foremost to your soul. You can love people without staying stuck with them. You can respect the past without dragging it into your future. And when you realize that emotional freedom becomes a real choice, I want you to imagine something. Imagine a bird trying to fly, but its leg is tied to a rock. That's what it's like trying to elevate when your identity is still tied to people who don't see your growth, the youth. You were made to rise, to soar, but you got to cut the cord from the versions of you that only knew survival. That means setting boundaries. That means saying no even when it's uncomfortable. That means choosing peace over people pleasing. And let's talk about people pleasing for a second, because I used to think being liked was the same as being loved. I'd overextend myself, over-explain just to keep the peace. But the truth is, peace that costs your voice isn't peace at all. It's quiet pain, and you deserve more than that. Mental health means being able to say this isn't good for me and not feeling guilty about it. One of the greatest forms of self-respect is learning to disappoint people gracefully, and not with bitterness, not with drama, just with truth, just with alignment. You're not being cold. You're being clear, and clarity protects your heart from exhaustion. When you stop expecting others to validate your choices, you start moving with strength, with confidence. And now, I know it's not always easy. Some of y'all are walking around with wounds that were never your fault. Abandonment, rejection, abuse, neglect. But even though you didn't cause the pain, you are responsible for the healing. That stuff, but it's empowering because it means the keys to your freedom aren't in anybody else's hands. They're in yours. So, what does that look like in action? It looks like taking care of your body even when you're tired. It looks like therapy, journaling, balance, faith, saying I'm not okay and not feeling weak for it. That's what real personal growth is. It's the invisible work that nobody claps for, but it changes everything. I've seen people who came from nothing rise to unshakable strength, not because the world gave them anything, but because they gave themselves permission to grow, permission to change, permission to live free. And when you do that, you stop measuring success by how much money you have, or how many followers, or how many achievements. You start measuring success by your ability to wake up with peace in your soul. You want to know how to be respected? Show up as someone who's not ruled by fear. Show up as someone who's willing to tell the truth even when it costs you. Show up as someone who doesn't need the spotlight to know they're valuable. That's the kind of respect that lasts. The kind that starts within and flows outward. So take a breath, take a step, and remind yourself this journey you're on is sacred. It's not for everybody to understand, but it is for you to honor. And the more you walk in alignment with your truth, the less you'll need permission to be who you are. Let me break this down for you. Your future will always require a version of you that your past was afraid to become. And that ain't supposed to feel safe. It's supposed to feel real. See, emotional freedom isn't found in avoiding discomfort. It's built by walking through it, owning your story, sitting with your fears long enough to realize they don't define you. Most people want the outcome of growth, but not the process. They want peace, but they avoid the pain that protects it. But if you want real personal development, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. You got to sit with your own silence. You got to look at yourself in the mirror, not with judgment, but with honesty, with a hunger to evolve beyond just getting by. And let's not pretend it's hard, especially when your environment doesn't support your growth, especially when people around you say you've changed, like that's a bad thing. Let me tell you what I learned. You don't owe anyone the version of you they created in their mind. You owe yourself the freedom to become who you were born to be. And that takes courage. Courage to walk alone for a while. Courage to speak when your voice shakes. Courage to rise after failing again. And courage to rest when your body tells you to slow down. We've been trained to see rest as weakness. But I found out real power is in the pause, in the breath, in the space between effort and exhaustion. That's where clarity lives. That's where mental health grows. You ever seen someone living loud on the outside but broken on the inside? Yeah, even that person. Smiling at the world while struggling in silence. Because we're taught to perform strength instead of practice it. But emotional freedom comes when you give yourself permission to be fully human, to feel without shame, to struggle without guilt, to heal without apology. Now I want to be real with you. There were times when I hit rock bottom, emotionally. Times when I questioned everything, my worth, my purpose, even my identity. But it was in those low places I discovered something I couldn't find at the top: peace that doesn't depend on praise. That's the kind of peace that'll carry you through any storm, not because you're invincible, but because you're anchored. And part of being anchored is accepting that not every day will feel powerful. Some days you'll just be surviving, and that's okay, because the goal isn't perfection, it's presence. Showing up as you are, growing at your own pace, refusing to quit even when your progress feels invisible. You see, too many people are stuck because they're trying to leap over what they need to walk. You don't unlock emotional freedom by skipping steps. You unlock it by honoring the process, learning the lesson, facing the part of yourself you used to run from, and saying, I see you, and I'm not ashamed of you anymore. That's personal growth. It's choosing healing over hiding, choosing reflection over reaction, and choosing discipline over distraction. Let me say something that might challenge you. Emotional freedom is not just about feeling better. It's about becoming better. Better in how you respond, better in how you treat yourself, better in how you carry your truth. And once you start living like that, people will notice. Not because you're louder, but because you're grounded. And grounded people are magnetic. Now, don't get it twisted. Being grounded doesn't mean being perfect. It means being rooted in your values, being unshaken by every opinion, being unbothered by rejection, because you finally understand that rejection isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a redirection. And when you see life like that, you stop chasing closed doors. You start creating new ones. So let me ask you, what would your life look like if you stopped hiding from your pain and started healing through it? What would your days feel like if you weren't just reacting to life, but responding from your core? That's where your power is. That's where your strength is. That's where the version of you you've been waiting for already exists. You don't have to earn it. You don't have to chase it. You just have to return to it. You want to know the real reason some people stay stuck? It's not because they're weak. It's not because they're lazy. It's because they keep reliving the same moment that broke them over and over, in their thoughts, in their habits, in their relationships. And they call that life. But what it really is survival mode dressed up as routine. I know that cycle. I lived that cycle. You tell yourself, this is just how things are. But deep down you feel it, the discomfort, the tightness, the craving for more. And that craving ain't a burden, it's a clue. It's your soul's way of telling you there's a higher version of you ready to break out. But to get there, you gotta stop building your future with the bricks of your past. Listen to me, your healing is not a betrayal of where you came from. Your growth isn't disrespect, it's redemption. It's reclaiming your life from fear. And you know what fear loves most? Familiarity. Patterns, loops, that you weren't born to repeat pain. You were born to reimagine possibility. You were born for freedom. Emotional freedom doesn't mean everything feels good. It means you're no longer a prisoner to what hurt you. It means you can remember the pain without reliving it. And that takes serious work, not surface level work. I'm talking deep spiritual, psychological, personal development, facing the inner dialogue that tells you you're not enough, challenging the limits that other people put on you and you unknowingly accepted. And the most powerful thing I ever realized was this: the thoughts in your head are not always the truth. Some of them were planted there by people who didn't believe in themselves. Some of them were passed down by trauma, not love. But guess what? You have the right to uproot anything that doesn't serve your highest self. That's called emotional maturity. That's how you take back your mind. And don't be surprised when the world doesn't celebrate your awakening. People are used to the version of you that was easy to manipulate, easy to guilt, easy to drain. So when you start saying no without guilt, when you start honoring your energy, when you start walking away from what used to hold, you watch how loud the silence gets. But don't be afraid of that silence. Silence is where alignment speaks. It's where clarity lives. It's where God whispers, keep going. Not everything requires your reaction. Not everything deserves your access. You don't have to engage with every insult. You don't have to explain your peace. That's what emotional freedom feels like. It feels like having nothing to prove and everything to protect. You know, over the years, I've met people from all walks of life, wealthy, struggling, famous, unknown, and there's one thing that separates the fulfilled from the restless. The fulfilled ones live in alignment. They've made peace their home, not just a destination. They're not perfect, but they're present. They choose to respond instead of react. They listen more than they speak. They know how to be respected without demanding it. Respect follows people who respect themselves. And I want you to remember it's not too late. Not too late to unlearn. Not too late to rebuild. Not too late to reconnect with who you really are beneath all the layers this world made you wear. Some people will try to keep you small. Not because you're small, but because your growth threatens their comfort. Let them stay small if they want, but don't you shrink. Don't you hide. Don't you apologize for evolving. You've earned a season of healing. You've earned the space of growth. You've earned the right to move forward without guilt. Your peace is sacred. Your story is sacred. Your silence is sacred. Stop giving it away to people who don't value it. So from here on out, I want you to walk differently. Speak differently. Think differently. Not because you're trying to impress anybody, but because you finally come home to yourself. You finally realize that emotional freedom isn't about escaping life, it's about engaging it from a place of inner truth. That's what mental health really is. Choosing your well-being over your ego, your growth over your grudges, your souls over your scars. You're not broken. They're breaking through. You made it this far, and if you're still here, that says something powerful about you. You're not someone who just wants to be entertained. You're searching for something deeper. You want change. You want to rise. You want to unlock true emotional freedom, not just as an idea, but as a way of life. And I respect that deeply. Let me say something to you that I had to learn the hard way. Freedom doesn't come from the outside. Not from money, not from status, not even from love if it ain't rooted in truth. Freedom is an inside job. It starts when you stop waiting for someone to rescue you and realize you are the rescue. You are the one. You are the answer you've been looking for. And listen, I know life is loud. I know the world is constantly telling you what you should be, how you should feel, where you should go. But I want you to shut all that out for a second. Just breathe, because the loudest voice doesn't always speak the truth. Sometimes truth comes in a whisper. Sometimes it's in the moment when you're sitting alone and you finally tell yourself, I deserve more. I'm capable of more. I'm more. And that moment, that's the birth of transformation. You see, people spend so much time running from pain, from rejection, from fear, from past versions of themselves. But you can't outrun your own shadow. You can only turn around, face it, and let the light hit it. That's what sets you free. That's when your personal growth turns from theory to reality. When I stopped running from my own stuff, my ego, my childhood wounds, the masks I would have be liked, I found something no spotlight ever gave me: peace. Peace isn't loud. It's not flashy. It's not a viral moment. It's waking up and knowing you're not pretending anymore. It's having nothing to hide. It's looking in the mirror and liking who's looking back. But that requires honesty. That requires bravery. It means saying no to the people and patterns that benefited from your brokennesses. It means choosing discomfort today so you don't have to live in regret tomorrow. And let me be real, emotional freedom is not the absence of struggle. It's the ability to stand in struggle and not be swallowed by it, to feel fear and still move forward, to cry and still hold your head high. It's the strength to say, this hurts, but it won't define me. You want to know how to be respected? Start by respecting yourself enough to walk away from what doesn't nourish your spirit. Respect yourself enough to say, I'm not explaining myself anymore to people committed to misunderstanding me. That right there is power. A quiet power, the kind that doesn't need applause. Now, I've seen a lot. Man, criticism, love, loss. And I'll tell you what lasts: character. Not charm, not clout. Your ability to stay grounded when life shakes you. Your ability to use integrity when shortcuts tempt you. Your ability to stay kind when bitterness seems easier. That's the kind of success that doesn't fade. And look, I know you're still evolving. You're still figuring it out. So am I. That's the beauty of personal development. You don't arrive. You grow. Keep choosing yourself. You keep fighting for your mental health. You keep showing up even when it's messy, even when no one sees it. Especially then. Because the most important breakthroughs happen in silence. Not when the world claps, but when you finally realize you've outgrown the cage you built to survive. And now it's time to live. This whole video, this whole message, it's not just about motivation. It's about liberation from old beliefs, from shame, from cycles, from pretending. You don't need to wear your pain like a badge. You don't need to prove your worth through perfection. You're already worthy, already chosen, already whole. All that's left is for you to walk in it. So here's your reminder: let go of the guilt. Let go of the approval addiction. Let go of the belief that peace is for other people, but not for you. You deserve to heal. You deserve to grow. You deserve to be free. You've listened long enough to other people's stories about who you are. Now it's time to write your own, page by page, choice by choice, day by day. Because your freedom, it's not a future reward. It's a present decision. So I'm asking you right now, today, unlock true emotional freedom by choosing you. The Ryu, the bold you, the imperfect, still learning, still growing, still rising version of you. And before I go, I want you to remember something: you're not too late. You're not too broken. You're not too far behind. You're right on time for your transformation. Now do me a favor. Take this message and don't just think about it. Let it sit with you. Watch this when the world gets noisy again. And if it helped you, share it. Because someone else out there is waiting for these same words to breathe life into them. We are Wisdom Recorder, your knowledge source. Subscribe and like for more content that feeds your soul. Until next time, stay grounded, stay growing, and above all, stay free.